Hello again, whiskey friends. Thanks for joining, everybody. This year is just flying by. It is hard for me to grasp that it is currently July in 2026, but we have reached the halfway point in the year, which then means it is time to look at our top 5 whiskeys of the year thus far. This is going to be a really cool mix of bottles, and I really hope these brands are on your radar. So thank you for joining today, whiskey friends. Let's kick off the show. All right. Now, as we get into this here, it's important to lay down some ground rules. First is that we do keep a robust scoring system behind the scenes that guides then how these whiskeys are arranged in order and make up in the top 5. But we have metrics behind the scenes that measure the flavor and experience throughout the tasting process, as well as give it a few points on value. That then gets us to an overall score, which helps us then compare this whiskey to other whiskeys that we're reviewing. In general, to be on this list, you are looking at something that probably has to be at least an 88 or higher. Additionally, in order to be on one of our lists, it cannot be a media sample. It has to be something that I purchased with my own money, and I currently have a bottle on my shelf. That's important to me. I really don't pursue media samples aggressively whatsoever. It kind of makes me just uncomfortable. I just like to review what I happen to come across, the same as you out there. And I don't want to be beholden to have to review something, especially if I don't really like it. It also cannot be one of the Hello Again Whiskey Friends single barrels. We do not put our own whiskeys on this list. Though I must say, if we did put our own whiskeys on this list, a lot of our picks would be up there, especially in the last year. So if you're interested in Hello Again Whiskey Friends barrel picks, there are links in the description to our private Facebook group or to our Patreon. At a minimum, joining the free tier gets you in touch with us, but really appreciate any support to the channel that we can get to keep this party moving. But we do have upcoming picks coming from Backbone, Obtainium, Copper and Cask, as well as Old Dominic. So if you want updates on those, you know where to get them. And in the comments, if you're currently in our group, back me up on how we've been killing the barrel picks the last year. So let's kick off this list here and let me know if there are any surprises to you or if any of these are also in your top 5. Number 5. All right, first on this list was actually on last year's list as well. The batch 1 of this even won our overall blind flight tournament to crown our favorite bottle of the year. But coming in at a score of an 88 to set the floor here is this year's edition of the New Riff High Note 10-year Kentucky Straight Bourbon. 10 years old, 116.9 proof this year. And this one was available at the distillery through their website. Cost $89. Riff does a really good job keeping their special releases at a very reasonable price. Honestly, everything on this list is going to be 100 or below. Now, as I said on my review of this bottle, while I preferred the 2025 batch due to its more distinguished oak profile, as you can see here, this one still graded high enough to be in my top 5 for 2026, which really just shows the impressive consistency that New Riff can start to create now that they have this older distillate in their rick houses and they're able to blend with it. I really hope New Riff continues to release a 10-year on an annual basis. Heck, maybe next year we'll even get a 12-year release. But of all of those young distilleries that started in the mid 2010s, I am still personally more excited about the trajectory of New, and as they hit these high age statements and their ability to put out some just amazing limited editions, heck, maybe even pushing the age on those single barrels up to 8 years and 10 years eventually. But I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. New Riff is a stone throw away from me, and I am just very proud of what they've been able to do with the brand and the whiskey. And this for them wasn't even an instant sellout. I know last year's sold out in just a couple of minutes. This year's lasted hours. So if you have somebody in the Northern Kentucky area that can help mule you a bottle, keep an eye on New Riff's releases. They really are very impressive, especially when they choose to use the High Note brand. I feel like they really put their more elevated blends into a high note. Number 4. All right, this one's coming out of a heritage distillery. I've been a bit bullish on this brand overall, but they really, really impressed me with this particular release. So also coming in at an 88 out of 100 We have the Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Rye, batch A126, coming in at an age statement of 11 years, 11 months, and 120.4 proof. I mean, I've been very disappointed over the last couple years with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Bourbon. For whatever reason, those blends just didn't seem to work for me, with none of the batches each year standing out. I mean, usually at least one batch of Elijah Craig Barrel Proof each year ends up being a hitter. Complete speculation on my part, but it just feels like Heaven Hill had been prioritizing other brands and putting their older casks into other brands or new SKUs and deprioritizing or maybe taking for granted what Elijah Craig Barrel Proof meant to some people. And those blends just didn't resonate. But then they changed the game, switched it up to this rye blend, and it is freaking incredible. I got this one for about $75 in Ohio, just sitting on a shelf at my local grocery store. I'm actually going to get a little nip of this here. It's been a little bit since I got into it. Hey, we got a whiskey saint glass. Cheers, Darrell. I'm going to pour just a little bit in here. Now, the mash bill on this one is 51% rye, 35% corn, and 14% malted barley. I did get to try last year's batch, though at 108 proof, it didn't come across as vibrant and well-rounded as this does at 120. But this has these refreshing qualities of the mint, a little pine, and then that oak profile on the nose is gorgeous, along with some of the darker leaning caramels, even drifting into almost like a caramel bark type of area. All right, let's go in for a taste. Yeah, and the taste is gorgeous through and through. Man, that oak is beautiful. There's a little bit of a cherry note, which I absolutely adore when I get that on Heaven Hill. It again has those refreshing qualities of a rye when it comes to a little bit of mint, a little bit of pine, not overbearing. Really, the overall profile does lean dark. Man, there's some really good baking spices and cinnamon there. I mean, it's really dense and decadent. Just quite a delicious rye. Now, for me, I can't find any reliable news on if Elijah Craig will be releasing a barrel-proof bourbon batch this year, but maybe taking a break, switching it over to the Ryes, give it a little reset. This is a great comeback story for Elijah Craig barrel-proof labeling in my mind, and here it is, number 4 on my top 5 so far. Number 3. So happy about this bottle. I actually don't think I've talked about this bottle on the channel yet. So this is actually its overall debut. And here it is, popping in at number 3. And when I say I haven't talked about this bottle, I mean, we've talked about this brand quite a bit, just not this particular bottle of it. But coming in at an 89 out of 100, getting into the top 3 for the year thus far, is the ever impressive Walleye Run Malted Rye, coming out of New Holland in Michigan. And this one was picked by the Mash and Journey. Now, technically, it says bottled on November 2025, but I didn't get my hands on this until 2026, so it counts for this year's release. And they called this one Catch of the Day. Now, calling a spade, which is always important to me, we did a walleye run pick that I absolutely adore. Jason and Scott found one that I love even more, which really just means I'm the overall winner because I've got more walleye run on my shelf. Man, I wasn't planning to drink through all these, but I really can't resist. All right. Cheers to Kelsey. Kelsey with the Whiskey Riff Lounge glass is the next glass up. Must have grabbed the box with all of our logos on it there. I got to pour a little bit of this, though. I actually have to save quite a bit of this one because there is no way I'm not nominating this one in our end of year tournament. So I got to make sure I have enough ounces of it. That's always the hardest part. We do this end of year tournament, and I got to make sure when it comes to my favorite things that I actually don't drink them so that we have enough to get through a Sweet 16 blind flight tournament to get all the way to the finals just in case it makes it there. God, his nose is so perfect, though. It's like everything I want out of this mash bill. So this mash bill is 51% malted rye, 49% malted barley. So just like coming from New Holland, which is a brewery, but they do make their own whiskey, mainly to get all those barrels going for what ultimately gets aged for the dragon's milk. They make incredible whiskey though. But the core profile here is really like all that maltiness mixed with cherry, apricot, and then you got like rye toasted bread, smothered in butter with a marmalade made with all those fruits. And then this one is like 8 years. Yeah, this one's a little over 8 years old, and it has a beautiful sweet oak profile on it. Oh man, I'm gonna go for a taste. Cheers, everybody. Just makes me smile every time. The stuff is so amazing. I think what one-upped our barrel by comparison, I think there's a bit more darkness and depth to the profile that they got out of their barrel versus ours. But man, if you've got both of these, you are so winning. And if you see these on the shelf at any point in time, or they get offered by any of the groups around this community. Always buy walleye. Buy it every time. I wish I had better access to it. If anything, I want to go up to Evernorth to do more picks so that I can also hunt more walleye. And heck, we need to do another walleye pick too. I'd be up for that as well. It is amazing stuff. I mean, I know New Holland even like won awards last year for this being like the best whiskey in Michigan from some of those competitions. And I see them win these awards. Sometimes I think these awards are like, eh. But when I see a brand like Walleye win one of these awards, I'm like, okay, that legitimizes it for me. That's legit. Number two. All right, I'm just like making a mess out here. Let's get to number two. All right, number two, I'm actually like really excited to talk about here. Scoring an impressive 90 out of 100. So you can kind of see the scores just keep mounting here. But this is my highest scoring singular bottle from this brand thus far. And you know, it's a brand near and dear to my heart. I'm pretty sure there's 15 to 20 open bottles on the shelf right now. But huge shout out to Evernorth Spirits for this Crimson Hollow release. So this is in the Omen series that Dan and Sean blend. And this one's a real interesting blend featuring 8-year Green River blended with 9, 10, and 18-year MGP. But that MGP is the 99% corn, 1% malted barley mash bill. Other important detail in this is that it was finished in new Kelvin cooperage barrels. So that blend was then double oaked and comes in at 130 proof. This one actually caught me off guard recently. If you went back a few months in the videos, I did a blind flight of all of these different Evernorth batches and releases against each other. And this won the whole thing. And at the time, I probably only had one pour of it. And I think I did that on our live stream. And then I threw it into that blind and it won. And then I had to sit down and actually grade it. So I'm only 3 pours in on this thing. And I am pretty sure that this is my favorite double oak of all time. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, sometimes the double oak category in and of itself maybe kind of like jumped the shark a little bit. I don't know. We were always excited about getting cast strength double oaks. And then we kind of learned over time, like maybe they're proofing these down for a reason because it's not always the best. I'm sitting here yapping. I need a pour of this thing. And it looks like we're keeping it in Michigan here. This is getting poured in a bourbon jerk glass. Cheers, Tom. But yeah, I think they freaking nailed this. I mean, what would be my other? I got to go through the bar and figure out what are my favorite double oaks of all time. I know the Kelvin 60 from Foregate would be in there, but even by comparison, that was $200. This one cost $80. And not only would I say that it's like my favorite double oak thus far that I've really come across, it's also got that blend of the 18-year light whiskey. I mean, amongst everyone who has tried blending with light whiskey in addition to everything that we're saying here, I think that makes that even more impressive. Like, it's a great Green River light whiskey blend. You know, when it comes to the 9 and 10 year and that MGP side, I don't know if those were in new casks or used casks, but this is just dark, ditch, and decadent, man. Let's go through the flavor profile here. I feel like I've been using that word decadent a lot this year, like it's my buzzword of the year for some reason, but I've been coming across a lot of decadent whiskeys. On the nose of this one, essentially reminds me of a blackberry cheesecake. So a cheesecake with a graham cracker crust that has blackberry syrup, blackberries on top, maybe some powdered sugar sprinkled all over it. All right, let's get into the taste. Up front, blackberries and cherries for days, in addition to that nice marshmallow fluff. Transition to the mid palate, keeps those fruits intact while adding essentially chocolate and graham cracker back into the equation, essentially creating almost a blackberry and raspberry infused chocolate s'more. And then as you get into the finish, it does brighten up a little bit, bringing back those creamier cheesecake-like elements, in addition to keeping the blackberry, keeping the graham cracker, keeping that charred marshmallow. I mean, I haven't used this term in a while, but this is fat kid whiskey. Like, you could just drink and drink and drink this. And it is just so sweet and addicting and inviting and soothing. Oh, freaking love this pour. And I'm also like always really excited when things from our general community can also hit at this level and make their way on these lists. But yeah, Shook, you really freaking nailed this one. This one's good. Number one. Now, I've been talking this one up quite a bit the last 2 years here, I feel like. Makes me feel like a hometown mark, but that's really not the purpose of this whatsoever. But coming in at a 91 out of 100 from the Belle of Dayton in Dayton, Ohio, a small craft distillery. Dietrich's Fine Whiskey Foolproof Bourbon. My absolute favorite thus far is Batch 15, coming in at 117.8 proof with a 9-year age statement. Now, What makes this one unique is that it's actually a 5-grain mash bill featuring corn, oats, rye, wheat, and malted barley. It's also copper pot still, which for me can sometimes be a huge turnoff, which also makes it very, very surprising that I continue to rank these Dietrichs so highly in my regard. Thus far, since I've been raving about these, I've got my hands on batch 8, 11, 13, 15, which is this one, 16, and 17. Love them all, but for the scoring system, they keep ranking somewhere between an 87 to a 91. So even the lesser batches are like barely off of this list. Now, what makes this unique is the flavor profile. As we go through this, I mean, the dried fruits and the range of the dried fruits that I can continue to get on both this batch and all the batches. I mean, we're talking dried figs, dried dates, dried oranges, dried cherries, dried cranberries. And then combined with all that, you get this lovely oak profile from these age statements, the baking spices, the cinnamon. Sometimes I even get like cinnamon sugar, sauteed walnuts, and like butter. I mean, we're talking like some complex notes that come out of this thing. And the mouthfeel on it is so amazing. I think that's because of the oats in the profile. But this one, in comparison to like the Crimson Hollow that came right before this on the list, like the Crimson Hollow is delicious and escalated from like a flavor profile sense, whereas this one is more beautiful and refined and delicate and has all these different cool layers to explore. I have given this bottle to other people though. Like, dude, call me out if I'm crazy. They love it too. So another year and another year so far with Dietrich on top. We'll see if that continues as we go throughout the year. I mean, I hope I find something that outscores this one, but a 91 is a pretty impressive score. So what do you think of this list so far? I mean, once again, most of these are just things that I just found on the shelf or had the same odds of clicking the buy button as anybody else. All of them are also $100 or less, proving that in 2026, as this hobby continues to evolve, you do not have to pay up to get amazing whiskey. There's amazing whiskey all around there in this like $60 to $100 range. What bottles do you think should have been on this list that aren't? And if I could have put Hello Again Whiskey Friend picks on this list, which one would you put on the list? But thank you for joining, everybody. Once again, hit that like and subscribe if you're still there. And just remember, while you can always find more whiskey, you can never have enough whiskey friends. So take care of those around you, and we will catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for watching Hello Again Whiskey Friends, everybody. A big shout out to our amazing Patreon community. If it wasn't for you, we couldn't continue to produce the content and barrel picks week after week. And for everybody else out there, be sure to hit that like and subscribe. It really helps the channel more than you know. And we'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye, everybody.